I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the HTC One VX full review starts in just a second. But first, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, contacts, camera settings, 4G LTE settings, and more. So when you walk out the door, you're good to go. It's part 2, HTC One VX, and it starts right now. It's part 2 of a video review of the HTC One VX, and despite the fact that the One series is kind of saturated in comparison to what we thought it was going to be earlier in the year when they announced these devices at Mobile World Congress, the One VX fits pretty nicely into AT&T's lineup. It's a $50 device with a 2-year agreement that packs some specs like a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, a 4.5-inch QHD display, which might I add is a great size for a lot of people that are perhaps new to smartphones or just don't want a big device in their pockets. 5-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, a 1,810 milliamp hour non-removable battery, despite the fact that the actual cover comes off. It's a non-removable battery by the user. And then you've got, of course, a front-facing camera and Android 4.0 with HTC Sense version 4 and 4G LTE connectivity on AT&T. So it's got the specs for $50. It's a great mid-range to almost low high-end device. Whenever a phone has a dual-core processor, I feel kind of guilty calling it a mid-range device, but in today's market, this is a mid-range device, despite having great build quality and more. It's a nice option on AT&T for $50, but let's jump right in to the camera. You've got a 5-megapixel camera here, and if you've worked at all with the One X Plus, the Droid DNA, or any of the original One series devices, you're familiar with ImageSense, which is HTC's image chip. It's in the devices and enables some great features. One of my favorites being burst mode, where I can quickly take some shots. Actually, I'm going to turn the sound on so you can hear this. I had some people calling the demo unit the other day, so I turned it off. You can see here, it auto zooms in. And of course, I can click on those and find the best one. I use the press release as an example over there. And we'll take a look. For example, I'll say that's the best shot. So I'll click on that one, and I can delete all of the rest of the images and set that as the default. So you've got that option. Another great option that I really enjoy is when you're recording something like I'm recording right now, I can still take stills throughout the video. So if I'm recording a soccer game that my kid's playing in or a football game, and I'm like, you know, that was a great pass, or that was a great touchdown, or a great goal in the case of soccer, I can click right there and take those stills as well as the video. So I've got 2 different options in addition to what I would usually be able to do on another device. I like that a lot. 4G LTE continues to be fast as well. I'm in the Dallas area. 4G LTE, obviously, considering that this is a very strong AT&T market rather. Speed test, we'll load it up right now and take a look. Dallas continues to do good with AT&T 4G LTE, and I will come in here and actually agree to the agreement this time. Change it to megabits per second, and let's see if we can get locked on. Looks like it's still locating us. We'll go ahead and do it on this server just to test it out. 4G LTE, AT&T doesn't give an exact indicator of what you can expect, but I've seen speeds between 15 and 35 megabits per second on the download in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then upload speeds right around this, about 10 to 20 megabits per second, depending on where I'm at in the city or in the Metroplex. So I've got 16 megabits per second on the download, 15 megabits per second roughly on the upload, actually 15.99, and I may need to turn on my location-based services on this device. I think I turned them off to conserve battery yesterday, if I recall. So decent speed test as well. And let's load up a quadrant standard test because, again, Snapdragon S4, compare this to the Snapdragon S3, was not a fan of the S3 in mobile devices. Huge fan of the S4. I mean, it's a night and day improvement, both this and the S4 Pro. Very, very impressive. And here we go. It's loading up right now. Call quality continues to be good on this. I made some test calls last night when I was driving home. Very impressed. Everybody said I sounded clear, and I find the speakerphone to be adequate as well. So HTC's always kind of done a decent job with that. They continue to do that with the One VX. And again, keeping in mind the price point of this device, I think there's a lot to like in call quality, in 4G LTE connectivity, and in features. It's a great bang for the buck all around. And even though it has a lower clocked processor, it's probably going to do, actually I'll spoil it for you, it will continue to do well on quadrant standard because I've actually ran some quadrant standard tests already on this device. So here we go, we're loading into it in the final animation here. And it's showing the planets, but very impressed there. Took it to an AT&T dead spot just a little bit south of the city and found it to be relatively impressive. Actually, it's a little bit southwest of the city, but it continues to be relatively impressive. Here we go. It's loading up right now, and we'll take a look and see what we got in the speed test. 5,336. Again, keeping in mind that this device is $49 out the door with a 2-year agreement. 5,336 is a pretty impressive number all around. So those are your speed tests. We'll take a look here on the phone. Forgive me while I pull this away to make sure that nobody called, and if anybody did, that I deleted it. But you've got the same HTC look and feel here that you're probably familiar with if you've owned an HTC device or looked at one in the past. You got your favorites and your contacts. Of course, Alexa Stevenson is my favorite, and I can come over here into contacts, and I can do my phone book, and I can organize these out, as you see, by my email address, by my SIM card, or by my phone. If I have multiple email accounts, I can show certain contacts. I've got Bill Stevenson, for example. So it kind of has a similar look and feel, at least in the contacts area, as stock ice cream sandwich and stock jelly bean. But what I do like is this, the thread. And I'll show you this in just a second. But you've got the ability to call mobile and check your primary. But where thread is really useful is something that HTC's done great. And it has to do with messaging, with emails, with call history, and more. So let's say I text and email Bill on a regular basis. I can see text messages, emails, call history, and more, all from one menu. So I can say, hey, when was the last time I called Bill? When was the last time I emailed him? When was the last time I texted him? And kind of see this all. The only thing I don't like is the email part does not work with the Gmail API, or the lack of Gmail API, I should say. So you're not going to get Gmail support in the email area. But if you have an Exchange account set up or a work account, whatever the case may be, you will get emails in there. Of course, updates here. And I can see gallery where Bill Stevenson has been tagged in a picture. Ironically, Bill Stevenson looks a lot like me, but we'll save that for another day. So all in all, some really great features right there. Really helps for organization. And I keep going back to the point that given the price point, it's a really impressive device, a really impressive bang for the buck all around. And of course, you've got your shortcuts up here, frequent downloads in the menu where I can see all my downloaded applications. I can go into menu and sort stuff. Then I've got my Play Store and search shortcuts up top with the Play Store giving me access to apps, music, books, magazines, movies, and TV, and more. So all in all, really impressive mid-range device all around on AT&T for $49. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of the HTC One VX. It gets my seal of approval. I think for $50, this is an awesome option on AT&T. But that said, it's going to go toe-to-toe against devices on AT&T like the Lumia 820, kind of devices that are similarly priced between $50 and $100. And depending on what this drops to in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it may have even more competition on AT&T, or maybe more competitive as the price continues to drop. Right now, though, great device. Really impressed with it. Specs are good considering what you're paying, and all around, I'd recommend it on the nation's second largest wireless carrier. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of the One VX, dogfights, and more. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like. Aaron C. Baker is my handle. Follow PhoneDog Taylor as well at PhoneDog_Taylor. And then me on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hi Aaron Baker. Thanks so much for watching. More to come on PhoneDog.com with the One VX. We'll see you next time.